What comes to your mind when you hear 1920s fashion? A whirl of sequins, feathers and pearls perhaps, or the iconic image of a flapper with her bobbed hair and short skirt? A time of dramatic social and political change, the 1920s saw a radical shift in women's fashion, reflecting the new freedoms and roles they were embracing in society. The early 1920s marked the beginning of this fashion revolution. The war had ended, and with it the restrictive corsets and long, heavy skirts of the previous decades were cast aside. In their place, a new silhouette emerged, the drop-waist dress. This was a radical departure from the hourglass figure previously celebrated in women's fashion. The drop-waist dress hung straight from shoulder to hip, emphasizing a flat chest and slim hips, a silhouette that was both more comfortable and more liberating. As the years progressed, hemlines began to rise. What started as a daring glimpse of ankle in the early part of the decade had transformed into knee-length skirts by the mid-1920s. This wasn't just a fashion statement, it was a reflection of the changing roles of women in society. As they began to participate more in sports and the workplace, practicality and comfort became as important as style. But the 1920s wasn't just about practicality, it was also a time of glamour and opulence. The Jazz Age brought with it a love of all things shiny and sparkly. Sequins and beads adorned dresses, reflecting the lights of the dance halls where flappers would Charleston the night away. And then there was the bob. No discussion of 1920s fashion would be complete without mentioning the bobbed haircut. Women were cutting off their long locks in favor of this short, chic style. It was a clear rejection of the traditional feminine ideal, as well as a practical choice for women who were now working outside the home. As the decade drew to a close, the stock market crash of 1929 signaled the end of the Roaring Twenties. But the impact of the decade's fashion revolution was far-reaching. The 1920s had seen women throw off the shackles of the past and embrace a new modern style that reflected their changing position in society. In summary, the 1920s was a decade of dramatic change in women's fashion. It was a time when women discarded the restrictive fashions of the past and embraced a new, more liberating style. The drop-waist dress, the raising of hemlines, the love of glamour, and the bobbed haircut all reflected the new freedoms and roles that women were enjoying in society. These trends didn't just define the 1920s, they set the stage for the fashion revolutions that were to come in the decades that followed. The 1920s, quite literally, changed the shape of women's fashion forever.